Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of Play Some Video Games, the only gaming podcast that gives out trophies for not running away from hippos, but in fact, for petting them. It is I, the captain at the helm this week, Kevin, and with me this week is Nathan. Sir, how are we doing?
I am doing well. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm actually doing better now that you're here.
Oh, thanks, buddy.
And also with us is Kyle. How we doing, man?
Man, I want to pet a hippo so bad. If I could pet a hippo, life would be fantastic.
I know. That's why I threw that in there just for you.
I appreciate it. I really do.
So we want to take a quick minute to thank you all for spending just a little bit of time with us each and every week and for hopefully sharing with some friends if you like what we're doing. We are in the midst of recording this on Saturday night, October the 14th, after a very hectic week for pretty much all of us here with the official launch of the Psvg network, if you will, with all the different shows dropping. So thanks. We heard a lot of positivity around all the different shows. It seems like you guys are digging it. So please keep the feedback coming. Or if there's something else you want to see we're not addressing, please let us know. Drop us an email or tweet at us. But yeah, let's jump right in, guys, and let's talk a little bit about what we've been up to this week and what we've been playing. So, Kyle, why don't you go first?
Yeah, so I have a number of things that are on my list. Through some friends and some other folks, I've actually gotten an extended trial of GameFly. So I was like, you know what? We're going to do this. We're going to give this a whirl. We're going to see what it's like to use GameFly. Nice. The first downer for me about GameFly is it takes about 5 days to get my game from the time.
It's ridiculous.
Yep. It's a really long time. And it's supposedly, I know my return at least is to Kansas City, which is not that far of a drive for me. So
that's true, yeah.
So that is the bummer. But through GameFly so far, I have gotten Battlefield 1, and I have played through all but the last of the little kind of story vignettes that they have. And it's a really fun, enjoyable game. I'm enjoying my time with it. I enjoy the way they're telling those stories. I enjoy the vignette and the small moments that they have. And I also like that it's basically a primer for you about, hey, here's how to use all of the vehicles when you get to multiplayer, because I'm not very good with those vehicles. But I'm really enjoying that so far. Like I said, I have one vignette left, and then I'm going to jump into the multiplayer. But so far, so good. I think it definitely has deserved the hype that it's gotten. I'm enjoying that. The other game that I got through GameFly right now is Crash Bandicoot: The Insane Trilogy. Now, some of you may remember when this was first announced back in the day. Even though I'm a PlayStation guy, I wasn't super stoked for this. So I was like, well, I got this free trial. We'll try this game. It's more Crash Bandicoot. It's fine. The controls are a little wonky. They're not as tight as I typically would like in a platformer. It's fine. It's a cool nostalgia trip. Like, they've done a really good job of the feel of Crash Bandicoot. Like, it looks like it's supposed to, and it feels like it's supposed to. But that isn't necessarily a great thing. So it's fine. I'm working my way through Crash 1. I know that obviously most people, myself included, preferred 2 over 1 for sure. So right. We'll get there. But yeah, so kind of working my way through those two things.
So would you say that it's fine?
I would say it's fine. I think if I could say that one more time, probably. I don't know if I said it enough. It's fine.
Just messing with you.
No, it's true. It's
definitely no Ratchet and Clank then, is what you're saying.
It is no Ratchet and Clank. No.
Fair enough.
In addition, I talked a lot about this on Board with Video Games, so I won't talk about it too much here. I'm just going to mention Hob. It's a PS4 exclusive currently, and it's also on PC. I won't be surprised if it comes to other platforms later. Basically, it's Zelda, and it's very good. So I would encourage people to check that out if they're interested. It came out the same week as Golf Story and Cuphead, so it's not getting a lot of love, I think, as a result of those two stellar games. But I think it deserves to at least be in the conversation with those games. I obviously haven't played Cuphead, but I am playing Golf Story. So I think it deserves to be in that conversation at least. So it's an enjoyable game if you like the old school Zelda games. Definitely encourage you to check that out. Rounding things out, also finished up SteamWorld Dig 2 on the Switch. That's a fun little game. Let me tell you, I had heard great things about SteamWorld, and I actually own Dig on PS4, but I've never played it, but I have it. So I was like, well, I need something to play while I'm watching television with the wife and things like that. So I downloaded SteamWorld Dig 2, and that's just a fun game. It's beautiful. It controls well. It's engaging. The gameplay loop in it is really makes me want to jump back in, like going down and getting gems, coming back up and upgrade, changing them in, upgrading, going back down. That loop doesn't sound like it should be exciting, but it is very fun and fulfilling, and you always feel like you're making forward progress. So SteamWorld Dig 2, really surprisingly enjoyed that more than I thought I would. And then finally jumped into that, the kind of the boogeyman game right now, Fortnite Battle Royale. Obviously, the folks over at PUBG are having a little, or a blue hole. Is this blue hole, right? Yeah. Not super happy with Epic. It's that game though. It definitely has some potential. It's definitely an early access game still.
Oh, totally.
There's some bugs. It feels a little weird sometimes. I can't get over crouching with L1. That I can't get over currently. Building things is there's a pretty steep learning curve to be able to build quickly. But I definitely understand now, after watching a lot of PUBG style game, why people enjoy playing it. So I haven't won yet. I've gotten to the top 10, and in squads we've gotten to like the last 3. But it's fun, and I really like where they're going, and I think the building has a cool aspect to it. The shooting in that game is not as tight as I would like it to be.
No.
So that's unfortunate, but overall, conceptually, they've got some good stuff going there, and I really look forward to, as they continue to work on it, seeing that game come together, seeing a little extra polish on it. And yeah, I'm enjoying my time with that one so far. My Overwatch group is actually kind of gravitated towards that off of Destiny 2 now. That's kind of where most of them are living. And I was hesitant to jump in, but now that I have, I'm glad I have. And I don't know if that'll play it every night or every week even, but I will definitely be stopping in regularly to see how that game is progressing and what they're doing with it. So that is my long-winded what I have been playing.
I'm there with you. I did try Battle Royale a few times now too, and it's the same thing. Like it seems like it's got potential, but it's a long way off. And even just watching, I've never played PUBG, but I've watched tons and tons of video Twitch streams of it. It looks nowhere near as in depth as PUBG is, but it's certainly, I understand why the developers of PUBG are a little tiffed off at what's going on here, because it's clearly heading that route. And if Battle Royale is able to get there, then that's awesome for them. But yeah, it's fun, it's fine, but it's not anything great yet. Could be. For me, I'm not gonna touch too much on it because we've been talking about it forever. Destiny 2, still playing that. Playing more Golf Story as well. Jason and Donnie kind of review cast it on the Nintendo Shack episode, so I won't talk too much about it there too, but I'm plugging away. I'm not as in love with it as the other guys are. Like, I get the point of it, but I'm already kind of a little bored halfway in. It's very repetitive for an RPG per se, but it's okay. Stardew Valley as well. I did jump into that. This one, I don't want to judge it too early. I've played probably 6 or 7 days in the game of it. Each day you have an energy meter. By the end of that, when your energy meter is depleted, you kind of got to go to sleep. That ends that day. So maybe an hour or 2 into the game. It hasn't sold itself to me yet like I was hoping it would, because everyone's kind of like, well, this might hold you over till Animal Crossing comes out. And I'm like, this doesn't have the same charm or even the same goals or gameplay mechanics or anything like that. Just the fact that, yes, you live in a village and you can have crops and chop down trees. It's about the only similarities to Animal Crossing that there is in there. But I think I'm going to like it more, but it doesn't really hold your hand very much. You kind of got to figure out things as you go along. And it's kind of weird in this overbearing world where the seasons do affect things, your energy affects things, and you have to do certain objectives, but they don't really kind of tell you where to go. So it's a little weird, but I'm liking it okay. But the big game for me, and I did review it, so it's already up on the website if you haven't seen it already, is Thimbleweed Park. So this is out, I think, in every platform now at this point, including it dropped on Android this past week. If you are a fan of old school LucasArts RPG games, Maniac Mansion, Monkey Island, you need to download this game ASAP, because this is a blast from the past. Same straight up style of gameplay. The retro bit graphics, but it's fully voice acted out there. A great story, very fun, breaks the fourth wall numerous times. It doesn't take itself too serious at all, but it's hard, which is great too. Like those adventure games were hard, and this is no exception. It stays the same way too. So if you're a fan of those types of adventure games, I said this in the last line of my article that I knew the guys were going to give me some flack for it. My picks as of right now for Game of the Year this year: Zelda Breath of the Wild, Destiny 2, Thimbleweed Park. That's how high I'm on this game. And it's not for everybody, but if you like those adventure games, this will not disappoint you at all. I think that's all I'm going to say on that. Yeah. Buy it. Play Thimbleweed Park. That's all I can say.
All right, quick question, Kevin.
Yes.
What Thimbleweed Park or Jazz Punk?
Jazz Punk was funnier and more fun to play. Thimbleweed Park, I think, is the bigger whole package. It's not as Jazz Punk, as you know, was all over the place as far as what it was, what it could be. This is a contained story that's funny, that's not just off the wall. Like it's a smart, funny kind of deal. And a lot of throwback humor and stuff like that. I mean, one of the greatest things that you get if you play those types of games, you would have to click certain things that weren't obvious in the old games, and like they didn't hold you, like you had to randomly click around. So what the creators in Thimbleweed Park did to kind of nod to that, there's a collectible throughout the game that are specks of dust. And when I say specks of dust, I mean that's the actual item, number one. But number two, it showed up as a single gray pixel on your screen. And I believe there's over 100 of them in the game. So I got 70-something of them, I believe, I think, by the end of it. And the kicker is if you get them all, you get absolutely nothing for getting them all. It doesn't affect the gameplay at all. But it was kind of their thing of like, hey, if you click around randomly, stuff will happen. This was their nod to that. Very hard to find, but I made it a point to get all the ones I could find without using a guide or anything like that. So it's a lot of fun. But that's it for me. Nathan, sir, what have you been playing?
For me, there's only been one game I've been playing right now.
I already know this one.
Oh, do you?
I believe it has something. It begins with S and ends with Tar Wars.
No, but
no?
Close. It does begin with S and ends with War, and it's a Shadow of War.
You didn't play Battlefront at all this week?
No, the beta's done.
I thought it extended it to Wednesday.
Nah, well, it did extend till Wednesday during the day, but I didn't get a chance to really hop back on and play it.
Gotcha. Okay.
But no, the only thing I've been playing this week has been Middle-earth Shadow of War. That's good. It's fun. It's more Shadow of Mordor, just kind of expanded and bigger. We may touch on it a little bit later. It's been getting some bad press with the loot box thing, but the loot boxes mean nothing in this game. I haven't purchased one yet, and I've been fine. So it's a great sequel. We'll call it that. From what I've played so far, I've only played a little bit, but really enjoying what I've seen so far.
Now, graphically, this one looks in the trailers I've seen a lot better than the first game. Is that true, or is it just trailers?
Well, I mean, for me, it looks fantastic. I'm playing on Windows 10 right now because this is one of the cross-buy titles. So I've broadcasted out a couple times on Mixer. You can see what it looks like on my PC, and I think I even posted some on our YouTube channel. You can go check out my first few minutes with the game, but it looks really good on my end. But I am using a decent setup. It's not like by any means the best computer to play it on, but it probably looks near, but not to what the Xbox One X will look like, but probably better than the Xbox One S and PS4. So you can kind of get a hint of what is to come. But yeah, it looks fantastic. It looks great.
And overall, it's more of the same, not in a bad way, but in a good way. Because people that like the game loved it, so it's a continuation of what everyone loved in the first one.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, if you enjoyed the first one, you know what you're getting into. It's more of that.
Gotcha. Cool. All right, then, everybody. Let's you've heard enough from us. Then let's jump into the questions and hear from you guys. That you send us your questions each and every week to podcast@playsomvideogames.com, or you tweet at us at PSVG. So it's time to jump into the messages. Message number 1 comes from James. This works out for us. I think all the questions actually work out for us. It's all relevant to us. What is our favorite class in Destiny 2 and why? Nathan.
Hunter, because Hunter.
Okay.
No, but seriously, the classes are really great. I like the one where you can kind of create you take the arrow, I can't remember what it's called, but it uses a void subclass and it pins everybody around. They all do damage together. So if you have a lot of people pinned together, like for a lot of when they rush out at you, I can't remember what it's called. My MMO terminologies are escaping me right now. Ads, when you get a lot of ads, and you just fire one of those arrows out in the middle, it attracts everybody together, and it slows them down, and they take joint damage. So it's really great for that if you have like a lot of ads coming at you. I also like the Arc Blade class, which is changed a little bit here, but it's still the same principle. You kind of just go around and could just wreck stuff with the Arc class. And then I'm not a big fan of it, but it's okay, is the Golden Gun class, the Gunslinger. But usually when I'm playing, I'm either playing with the Void class or the Arc class.
Cool. Kyle, what's your favorite and why?
Well, I will lighten up what I was going to say a little bit. Titan is the only class I've been playing. And why is because hunters are jerks. No, Titans, like I said, Titan's the only class I've played. I have not really played Warlock or Hunter very much. I'm really enjoying it though, because I do like, being Captain America or throwing sweet flaming hammers. Like those both are good things to do and very fun to do. I also like the idea that I am helping my team by putting up shields and things like that. So I enjoy that class. I think that it fits my playstyle the best, even though I really think, other than when you're popping ults, not huge differences to me between the classes, it doesn't seem, other than those super abilities. So yeah, Titan for the win. Be Captain America, throw off some hammers.
It's true. I am playing as Titan as well. I did play Warlock in Destiny 1, but decided to go Titan in Destiny 2 to try something different. So I do enjoy the Warlock class as well, but I've been spending a lot of time as a Titan, throwing those fiery hammers with molten damage that just spreads and burns people. It's fun. But yeah, same thing for me. I think I pick it. It's my favorite because I like to be the person to run into the havoc to begin with and just kind of destroy as much as possible before dying or needing to be healed by somebody else. So it's kind of, I like that role. So I enjoy it. So it's been a lot of fun. So thank you, James. Second question comes in from Frank. I'm starting to see more Nintendo Switches in the wild than stores. Do you think this is a good sign for the holidays, or will it be chaos and hysteria soon enough again? Kyle, what do you think?
I think you should buy one if you see one, because I think that the Switch is going to be the hot video game item, other than maybe, this guy right here, the SNES Classic. I think other than that, those are going to be the two hot items for the holidays from video games. But yeah, I would pick one up. I think especially once Mario comes out, they're going to be a little bit harder to come by. I know Nintendo is upping their production, they said, to 2 million a month is what they're shooting for now. But I think once we roll into November and December, I feel like they're going to be hard to get. I hope they're not. I hope whoever wants one is able to get one. I just feel like they're going to be a little harder to come by, especially once Mario comes out.
I wanted to answer this question first, Kyle. You muted me remotely. How dare you?
He did not.
But go ahead. I'll save it for last. So please, Kevin, you go first.
Okay. So if you're interested in Nintendo Switch right now and you see it in stores right now, I'm with Kyle. Buy it now, because once Mario hits, I think it's going to be hard to find for the rest of the year. Despite Nintendo's efforts to try and get as many out there, I don't think it'll meet the demand, especially with Mario dropping. You got Fire Emblem Warriors, you have Xenoblade 2. There's some big heavy hitters for Nintendo coming out. It's already hard to get in the first place. It's only going to get harder. So I say get it now. And I predict, and this may make the man with his name in green a little angry, the Switch is going to outsell the Xbox One X, X1, One X, One X1.
I would assume every console outsells the Xbox One X, because the Xbox One X is not for everybody.
Okay. I'm glad
guys, we have Phil Spencer on the show, everyone.
He's watching right now. Phil's like, Nathan, checks in the mail.
Nice work.
So the Switch, I believe, if you see it right now and it makes sense for you to buy it. But so Friday, I was curious to see how the stock was looking on the Switch, and they had a thing on Best Buy's homepage. It's like, hey, Nintendo Switch, blah blah blah. I was like, huh, okay, what's this mean? So I clicked on it, and it said, hey, look for your in-store stock, not your socks.
Well, you might want to look for your socks if you're going in store.
Well, I mean, you can still wear flip-flops. But
yeah.
So look for your in-store stock indicators and see what there was there. And so I clicked and I looked at my area. Every store had both the green, or not, sorry, the neon?
The neon and gray.
And the gray controllers. So they had both in every store within like a 200-mile radius from me.
Wow.
For Best Buy. And I'm sure Walmart, Target, Amazon, they're all going to have great stock. I think we have turned the corner with Switch. I think that the supply is now meeting the demand, and I think that it will be a hot item this holiday season. However, when Mario does come out, it's going to be harder to get that Mario bundle. There's going to be an actual bundle with Mario that comes out, and I don't know if they've announced if it's going to have any sort of like special limited edition quality to the console, whether that's color scheme or anything. That'll probably make that hard to get if so. But if not,
I believe it's just they will have red Joy-Cons
red Joy-Con
instead of the neon one. So I believe it's just Mario Red.
Makes sense, because that's kind of what they did with the Wiimotes. They had like Wiimotes that were green and red.
You got it.
So I think that the Switch will be easy to get a hold of this season. Possibly, I could see November coming around. There being some sales and specials that say, "Hey, free gift card or something to a specific store when you buy something."
Sure.
Not necessarily discounting the item, but something that brings you back into that store to buy more stuff. I think that's what you'll see, and I think that the Switch will be easier to get a hold of than people have thought to this point.
Mm-hmm.
So if you see it in the store and it makes sense for you to buy it now, then by all means, go ahead. If you have games you want to play like Zelda and Mario coming out like within a couple weeks, and any of those Mario Kart games and all the indies that are out there to play, there's a big selection.
So many good indies. Yeah.
So if it makes sense to you at this point to buy it, then if you see it, go ahead. But like I said, looking around, I've seen it in stores at Targets. I've seen it in stores at Walmart's. I've seen it on the online store indicator for Best Buy, for all those local stores. It's not going to be rare. I think you're still going to have a problem finding the SNES Classic, which, you know, that'll be the hardest thing video game related to get a hold of this year. But the other side of that is that you were mentioning the Xbox One X a second ago. The Project Scorpio edition, you will not be able to find.
Oh, no, definitely not.
The regular edition, I think, and here's what I think Microsoft's going to do. They're going to follow that same path that they did with the Elite controller. And I've talked about this before, is your market for the X is the Elite controller market.
Sure.
And the Elite controller, they didn't make a ton of them, but there was more demand for it than they thought there was because of that price premium that they put on it. And I think what you're seeing is now people are seeing that haven't had an Xbox yet this generation. This is their jump on time. So that may be hard to get a hold of them, I think. However, I don't see it necessarily being a big seller. I don't think it's going to have the number of units on shelves to buy to be a better seller than the Nintendo Switch. I think there's going to be more Switches in the wild, more PlayStations in the wild, like PS4 Pros. And I think that a lot of you're going to have sellouts of the Xbox One X, but it's because of the lowered quantity that they're putting out. So it may be artificially looking like, oh, this is the thing to get this holiday season. And then around November, they're like, oh, look, magically, here's some more coming out at the end of November or whatever. But anyway, that's my spiel. If you want a Nintendo Switch and it makes sense to get it now, go ahead and get it. And I think that it'll be easier than people think to get it in the holiday season.
So I do want to backtrack a little bit here. And we pick on Nathan a lot. So I want to clear that up right now. He is the most level-headed Xbox fan, I think, out of the people I know. Even though we try and paint it that he's not, and that he's like, no, the Xbox One X is gonna be the best thing ever. He is very level-headed about it. We just pick on him for it. Although on That's Entertaining, he did spend an extraordinary amount of time trying to sell an Xbox One to his guests. So yeah, you do like to guide people towards Xbox, but when the argument comes down to it, you're the most reasonable Xbox fan we talk to.
I mean, if people ask me what they should get, I'm not just going to be like carte blanche Xbox, right? I'm going to be like, What do you want to play? And if Mario makes sense, go that way. If you want to play the exclusive that you can get like with The Last of Us and stuff like that, go that way. But if you just want to have an overall good system with online service, then I know which one you should get.
Yes. So we pick fun of him, but it's all in jest. We know he's very level-headed. So the last question, this is funny the way this worked out because it's related to the three of us directly, I think, out of anybody in the PSVG lineup here. Becky writes in, great episode with Justin Warner, guys. So if you didn't hear that, episode 101 rather, featured Justin Warner, ironically enough, with Nathan, Kyle, and myself all on it with them. So she says, you guys seem to all click really well together. Did you know each other well going in? And are you guys good at cooking as well? Nathan, why don't you go first?
I mean, I didn't want to toot my own horn, but I am pretty good friends with Justin on the outside. We actually spend the weekends together cooking. Sorry. No, I did not have any prior contact to him before, but he's a good guy, easy to talk to, and that kind of lends himself to being why he would want to be a good Food Network star type personality on the Food Network is because he's easy to watch and relate to, and that exudes on the conversation. So what you saw was genuine. I thought that he was a great guest to have, and Kyle, I'm still waiting on that painting to be done behind you.
I know, right? But if you notice, we have extra.
There's more lines.
There's more samples now, but we have decided which paint it's going to be, and we have actually purchased the paint. We just need to do it now. So we're getting close.
Because I remember you asking him, we all kind of agreed, and that's been a few weeks now.
I know.
So next week on PSVG, Kyle's not going to be on, but we want him to turn on his camera, and he'll be live painting in the background.
Yes,
as we
just roll on the wall. I know, right?
Happy little trees.
Happy little trees. So Nathan, are you a good cook though, too, Nathan? You didn't answer that part.
Cook? No, but I grill, and I'm told that my grilling is good, so I can cook meat. Okay. That's what I do.
That counts. Kyle.
Yeah, obviously, I mean, no, I didn't know Justin at all, other than I had seen him on Food Network and followed stuff he did. I had actually owned his cookbook for a while because I like the way he does things and approaches food. Interestingly enough, I'm a huge Elton Brown fan as well, and it kind of Elton Brown is like my go-to for like technique and technical things, and Justin is kind of where I look when it comes to like flavors and things like that. Not that obviously Elton can't do those things, but that's kind of, when it comes to cooking, what I think of. I actually really, really enjoy cooking. I've cooked for a long time in my household. Between the wife and I, whoever gets home first is who cooks. I mean, and that's it. And I tend to be off of work before she is, so I tend to be the person who cooks more often. Tonight, I made a pretty killer sun-dyed tomato pasta with some wilted spinach and basil, and it was pretty good. It was pretty solid. It was totally vegan. Used some cashews to make the cream sauce for it, and
you lost me a sun-dried cashew, and you really lost me with vegan.
Yeah, so it's vegan, and some, like I said, cashews for the cream sauce, and made some vegan, quote unquote, vegan Parmesan cheese with cashews and what else? Oh my gosh, the other thing that goes in it, nutritional yeast. There we go. So yeah, it was pretty solid, and I enjoy cooking. I love to cook. I still obviously have a long way to go. But it's one of the things that I do just when I'm just looking for something to pass some time, jam out to some music, or spend time with my wife. It is something we enjoy doing together. So yes, I absolutely love cooking.
You saying that you made something that was vegan reminded me of your question that you asked him about the vegan stuff. And I was just like, I loved his response. He was like, yeah, just have a healthy relationship with food. Like, that was the best response.
So, to piggyback off there too, I also did not know Justin going into this. I have made attempts to stay in touch with him normally about once a week in one way, shape, or form, because we are hoping to work with Justin a little bit more in the future, as well as some things we are planning that, if everything works out appropriately, you have not seen the last of Justin here in PSVG land. But yeah, no idea. But I agree with what Nathan said, that I couldn't be happier with the way that episode turned out and how everyone just kind of clicked. And he was very easy to talk to. He was very honest going in. And he was, to be honest, he was very generous with his time too, not knowing us as well, to sit there and say, no, I'm going to commit to the whole show. And if you listen to the show, God only knows how long it's going to go on. So you never know. And he never at any point was like, guys, I need to leave. Or he was super awesome. So my good at cooking. I don't want to say I'm good at cooking, but I am a lot more into cooking than I was. Probably over the past year, I've gotten into it a lot more. I do find it almost somewhat relaxing after a day of work to come home and cook a meal, whereas some people might think that's the last thing you want to do. I kind of enjoy it. Been experimenting with a lot of different things that I normally wouldn't eat, because I used to be an extremely picky eater, to the point that my wife was just like, I hate cooking. Just tell me what you want and I'll just do it, because she don't want to have to deal with it. But I've been a lot better experimenting with some things, ironically enough. So, if you're following us on Discord there, you might see Kyle and I go back and forth, snapping pictures every once in that. And everyone's like, man, Justin rubbed off on you guys, whatever the case is. But I inadvertently, in my house, we did, I think it was 3 vegetarian dishes in a row without realizing it, We had like a pumpkin ravioli. We had a soup we had done with butternut squash and roasted apples, and there was one other dish, but they all ended up being vegetarian. We didn't realize until like the third dish, and I'm like, man, we haven't eaten meat in like 4 days. What is going on? But it was all good. So yeah, no, I'm not good at it, but I'm getting better, and I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. So I think, yeah, that wraps up the mailbag for this week. So thanks again, everybody, for sending those in. Reminder, podcast@playsomvideogames.com. You can tweet at us at PSVG or reach out to us on Facebook for questions at any time, and we will answer them on the PSVG show. So, fellas, you ready to do this? Let's jump into the news of the week. Kyle, why don't you go first, sir?
So I feel partially like we would be remiss if, and I know it's been kind of one of the hot topics in video games this week, is the proliferation, there we go, of loot boxes, especially in AAA games, and whether or not these constitute gambling. Do they constitute gambling angled at or, directed towards minors? And do we feel is appropriate for games that we're spending $60 on to lock content behind random loot boxes? And just kind of generally our feelings on it. So I don't have a specific news story. I mean, you could look at the statement from the ESRB as a news story, or the statement from Peggy as a news story. But I just more wanted to have a conversation with us about, do we feel like loot boxes? We'll start with this. Do we feel like loot boxes are gambling? Kevin, do you think that loot boxes are gambling?
So I think it goes back to a little bit to how you define loot boxes. So some games do it in the form that you can gain an edge with an item that's inside. Like you can get legitimately a better item from it. Or there's some that treat it simply as you get a customization to it, like a certain skin or whatever. If it's a skin and it doesn't give you actually any advantage to it, I don't consider it to be gambling, I don't think. And I don't even really consider it to be gambling at all, but I do understand that, especially overseas, they really see it as a form of gambling that people would just continue to buy. Because I do get the sense that people that have that impulse to gamble, okay, let me buy this box. Oh, I didn't get what I want. All right, let me do it again. It's like the people at the slot machine that just keep pumping the nickels in or the quarters in to keep going. So I can understand how it's perceived in some cases to be. Personally, do I believe it's a form of gambling? I don't know.
Nathan, what do you think? You're muted, sir.
Kyle muted you remotely again.
I know.
This guy. I think they're annoying. That's what I think they are. So going back to Shadow of War, loot boxes are a thing. And that's pretty much before the release of the game, what everybody was like saying, like, this is terrible. You have to do this because someone said that you couldn't even do something in game if you didn't have loot boxes, right?
Yeah. I remember seeing that.
And then there's reviewers of the game that were like, no, that's not even true. But by that point, the message had been said. It was already out there in the ether, and it was already echoing in the echo chamber. So it damaged, I think, that game's launch, for no reason, for fake news, like, honestly. And, you look at games like Overwatch, you look at games like Halo 5 had a loot box. Madden has had loot boxes for a while, technically, with those card packs.
Right.
FIFA, Star Wars Battlefront, that's been a big point of contention after that beta. I think that, so in my mind, if I'm spending real money at a chance, right? What is that? By definition, that is a game of chance.
Yes.
What is gambling? Gambling is a game of chance. So, it is, in my mind, pretty similar. There's the people that say, you know what you're going to get, and you're going to get something. Yeah, it might be a piece of junk that you don't really want.
But it's something.
Exactly. But I'm of the mind is like, there are specific people that this is designed for. And it's kind of a derogatory term, but, people in the industry refer to them as whales.
Yeah.
And I don't like that term, so I'm not going to say it again, but that's what people in the industry refer to them as. And there are people that will buy and just buy until something comes up. Or there's also the people that you've had this in mobile games a lot, where a kid doesn't realize that there's actually money being spent, and they're buying all this random stuff through these microtransactions. And no, they're not always random boxes, but it's the same kind of principle.
Mhm.
You kind of get that little, ooh, something cool is happening. And the way that they design these loot boxes when they open is they design them to kind of evoke that emotion, to be like, oh, this is cool, something's happening, something's coming out here. And I think that that's dirty. I think that if you pay for a $60 game, you've already paid your price of entry. You shouldn't have to necessarily pay for anything else, unless this can be done with only in-game currency. I'm fine with that. If you're paying more money though outside of it to do it, I don't like that. And I realize people say, well, how can we afford to develop video games then if we don't have, this extra source of income? I say, look at what Titanfall 2 did. They had free maps and things like that, and you could buy specific content, specific skins, specific things to help support the game further if you so chose. And that's really, honestly, probably the best model I've seen of this implemented. With Overwatch, you can buy skins, but you can earn them pretty easily too, so it's not as big of a deal. But there are people that buy it because they just want to try to, there's a certain event going on. Oh my gosh, I need to have so many boxes to open until I get all these things. They just pour money into it, right? And there are mobile games that people say, I put so much money into this game, it's ridiculous. And it's like, how does this happen? It's because there's this psychological loop that when you get it, you have that euphoric reaction, you enjoy it, it sends some chemical imbalance in your, or not imbalance, but chemicals into your brain that make you enjoy what you've just done, and you want to find more of that. You want more of that experience, and you realize you can only cost you $1.99 or 99 cents or whatever it is. But after doing that 50 times, you're at $110 for that game. And what do you have to get for it is some random digital content. Maybe you got what you wanted, maybe you didn't. It's like putting that quarter in the slot machine. Maybe you got something out of it, maybe you didn't. It's a game of chance. It is gambling. It is preying on a specific group of people. And I think that there are better methods to accomplish their goal than introducing these loot boxes like they are.
So one of the common, and Nathan touched on this, one of the common things we hear as to why these things exist is because obviously development of AAA video games is far more expensive than it ever has been in the past. And the $60 price tag for games hasn't changed in quite some time.
That's true.
If, through season passes and add-on content and loot boxes, let's say that on average for each person who's bought the game, because of some people spending more and others only paying the $60, let's say for hypothetical that per person, a game developer is getting $75 per game, because some people are paying 60, some people are paying 90 because they're buying the other content, but let's say on average, $75 is what they're getting per person who buys it. Would you be in favor of completely removing, loot boxes and the ability to purchase them, but raising the price of every game you bought to $75?
Are you asking me specifically?
I'm asking both of you, just in general.
So let me answer, and then I'll toss it to Kevin. But no, quite honestly, because it'll be like this for 2 or 3 years, and then loot boxes will be back, or something else will take its place. Then you'll have a $75 game plus whatever you're spending on loot boxes. It's an endless cycle. It's just one of those things where if you take it away, people might be happy for the time being until they realize what else they can do to get that $5 or $10 more out of you, or more, depending on what happens. But I think that if you take it away and just say $75 for a game, in practice, if that's the way it stayed for perpetuity or forever, yeah, I'd be fine with that. Honestly, it'd be great. It'd be like, if you look at Assassin's Creed Origins coming out, there's the regular edition, there's the deluxe edition, and then there's the ultimate edition, or whatever you want to call it. And the deluxe edition comes with a couple extra little things, right? That are just little digital add-ons. Yeah. But they're getting an extra $5 or $15 or $10 or $15 from me. I can't remember how much it was over the main game, and that helps fund that game a little bit more. Now, they did something similar with Shadow of War, and they've done similar things with Forza 5 and other games. So I'm more of a fan of them doing that and having that option where here's an extra edition that has some more stuff, digital stuff, and you can see what you're buying. And you can be like, okay, this is a decent value. It doesn't cost them anything else to give that to you because they've already made it, for one thing. And you're just giving them a couple extra bucks to help fund the game. That's fine to me. And I pay 70 or 75, whatever it was, like you said, for that. So anyway, that's my long-winded answer. I'm long-winded tonight, you guys, in case you hadn't realized.
No, you're not. I'm pretty much in agreement with you. I don't want to see it done that way. And only because you brought up season passes in this when you asked the question there, Kyle. So for me, in the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 years in gaming, I think I've gotten 4 season passes. That was for Watch Dogs, the original one, Destiny 2, Fallout 4, and Injustice 2. Other than that, I actually haven't bought any DLC at all. And it's not because I didn't enjoy the games. Sometimes I'm like, okay, well, that's done. I don't need more from this game. So for me, the whole loot box thing or increasing the price to do that for me isn't a big sell because I just may not take a chance on that game. I for some reason feel more comfortable spending $40 to $60 on a game and then deciding, hey, I'd like to pay more for this content than maybe buying all the content, getting the game and being like, man, this is terrible. Like I knew going into Injustice 2 that I wanted the Ultimate Edition, I think is whatever it was I got, because I knew I was going to enjoy it. I had played the first one. I knew it wasn't going to be worse than the first one, so I was fine with doing that. But if I were taking a gamble in, let's say Titanfall 2, I'm not apt to buy the Ultimate Edition with everything included right off the bat because I don't know how I feel about that game yet. So I wouldn't be a big fan of it. I'm okay with things the way they are. The loot box thing for me, if you're paying to win, that annoys me. If you're just paying to get extra content that doesn't really matter, it's preying on people, sure, but ultimately it doesn't affect me. So I don't have a personal disagreement with it. If people want to do it, they're going to do it. You can't control what people do sometimes. I mean, but you look at what I've spent in Magic Kingdoms on the mobile game. Kyle knows how that can be, and Caroline's done the same thing. My wife's done the same thing. We've sunk a lot of money into it, but it's a free game that we're then paying to support the development of. So while I'm not happy about it, I'm a little more okay with that methodology because I didn't pay for the game in the first place. That's my way of giving back, like Nathan said, to something, supporting it afterwards. But yeah, supporting fully up front, nah, no thanks.
And just remind me when we're done podcast. I have a question about Magic Kingdom, so I'm not going to ask it now. So remind me when we're done. My final little thought on this, and then we can move on to the next news stories. I think a lot of how you got into gaming or how the type of gaming you played plays a big part in this. If anybody listened to Bored with Video Games, they know that my board game I don't want to say obsession, but I started getting into board games because of my time of playing Magic the Gathering, and cracking packs was a big cool thing that we did, and it was expected. And when you would play at FNM, sometimes you win some packs and you crack those. When new sets came out, you'd buy a box or 2 or 6 and crack all of those packs. And there was a cool feeling to that just everyone did that, hopefully most people did within their budget. So transitioning to the video games, I never think about loot boxes as anything else than opening a pack of cards, because that's just what it is to me. And I've played games for years and years and years and years and years that have done this. So for me, I think I definitely agree with a lot of what was said. It just is something I have never really even thought about, because that's just part of gaming for me. Like cracking packs and opening those sorts of things is just in some ways what gaming is to me, because of the years and years and years I've played Magic and those styles of games. So yeah, I just think it's a really interesting topic. I don't think it's going anywhere. I think some people were hoping these would be the way of online passes.
Yeah.
Suddenly they just don't exist anymore. But I think loot boxes or some sort of loot chest / loot crate is probably going to be here for the long run, unless something significantly changes from a legal standpoint. And I know Peggy's statement was very, very interesting, because they said in theirs, which the ESRB didn't, that it's not up to them if it's gambling or not, that there are federal commissions that decide that, and they are just following the guidelines from those commissions. So it's not their decision. So I would assume for the ESRB, from a technical standpoint, it is probably something similar as to why they're saying, nope, it's just like opening some Pokemon cards.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, well, thank you there, Kyle. Jump, I'll take the next news thing. So this dropped surprisingly late in the news cycle here, right before the weekend actually started, I believe. Friday night, this was announced. Humble Bundle, the charity supporting digital distribution service and game publisher, has officially been acquired by IGN, the company's announced today. Financial terms have not been disclosed, so we don't know how much they paid for it. But fun little fact is Humble Bundle has raised over $104 million for charity. Sorry, $106 million for charity from over 10 million customers to date. So they clearly do some good out there. But a lot of people, there was a lot of grumbling from the internet on this, myself included. And I'll get to that in a minute. But there was an update to the story after, I think this was actually updated today. Yes. A representative for Humble Bundle provided the following statement from the vice president and general manager at IGN. Editorial integrity is something we take very seriously at IGN, and I'm confident that we will strike the right balance when it comes to our coverage of Humble Bundle and the games they sell. Our readers and customers have always come first, and that won't change. A lot of people will kind of raise an eyebrow that a media coverage place will now technically be in the business of producing and selling games, even though, you know, majority of the funds do go to charity. You know, it kind of raises some conflict of interest there questions. For me, when I read this statement, I did chuckle a little bit when they talked about editorial integrity in IGN. That's my personal thing with IGN. So going back to the earlier days of IGN, I loved them. And I like many gamers, like that was the place to go to get video game news. I couldn't tell you the last time I actually used them in any sort of serious news lookup features there. They were caught up there in that whole fiasco, was about a year ago now, with the people being revealed that they were taking money for doing reviews and stuff like that. I think they were one of the people that were tied up, and I'll have to look because Kyle's giving me a face here.
I don't remember that at all. I could be wrong, but I don't remember that at all.
I'll take some look when I throw it to you guys here. But for IGN to see sometimes, and this kind of raised questions when certain games that we joked about on the Discord a little bit, that like Evolve got a 9.1 from IGN. Everyone's kind of like, who the heck is giving Evolve a 9.1? And there were some other weird games out there too that had come up there where they were claiming that, you know, they were taking bribes and being payoffs to do good reviews there. But I won't dive too much into that without doing my homework there. So overall, though, what are your thoughts, Nathan and Kyle, on IGN taking over, you know, a privately owned company that's in the business of making money, taking over a charitable thing that now publishes games? So they're in the business of reporting and publishing and selling games there. What are your thoughts on that, guys?
Well, so first off, I don't think it's inherently a bad thing. It raises an eyebrow, sure, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. What this could mean is that now that there's more capital behind, you know, Humble Bundle to be able to provide even more, you know, values or bundles to people to buy and support charities, this could be a very good thing. But there's a lot of potential, like you said, with ethics. You know, they kind of brings in the question of ethics and journalism and things like that. Like we have to disclose that the parent company of NBC is GE whenever they report about GE, right? So it brings in, you know, just different weirdnesses or oddities when you're looking at a news story or something. You probably see more ads now for Humble Bundle on IGN's site for sure. And it's kind of like, you know, how ThinkGeek and was acquired by GameStop, because now there's a lot more things that are sold back and forth between the two of those, and there's a lot of more cross ads. But for Humble Bundle specifically, I've supported them a number of times with the charities because I like to support the charities and things like that and support the developers directly. I thought it was a great service. And, you know, they've said that they're not going to change anything after this acquisition at this point. So it'll take time for them to kind of realize their vision and what they want to do, I'm sure, with Humble Bundle. But I think it's much ado about nothing at this point. It's like saying, oh, so-and-so just bought the house next to me. Nah. You know, it's just like, well, you don't know. You don't even really know what they're going to do with the property. You don't know if they're going to make this house even better than it was before, or if it's just going to go be a rundown shack by the end of it. Nintendo. So... But I just think that we got to be fair. and wait and see. And we don't know what the intents are behind it. And I refuse to believe that IGN is some evil company looking to take away charity funds, right? So wait and see what happens. I could be wrong, but who knows? What do you think, Kyle?
So I think it's important for me to note that clearly PSVG has never gotten money for any reviews we have ever done.
No.
And I'll be honest, when it comes to this story, I think it's a non-story. I don't care at all.
We spend money on every
I know we spend money on most of the reviews that we do, right? I don't care at all. I think now I understand that there are some potential ethical concerns here. I also say then, okay, this is a hobby industry. I don't care. Like, and I'm not saying they are doing this, but if every single game maker gave IGN $1 million for every review they did, I personally wouldn't care. Because you know what? When I was a kid, I read Nintendo Power all the time and loved it. Thought it was great.
It's true.
So, like, is it important to get a good perspective and a non-biased perspective on what games are out there to help you make informed purchasing decisions? Absolutely. You know what? There are tons and tons and tons of people who review video games these days. IGN's not the only gig in the house. No. They might be the biggest right now. I think most people would argue, though, they're not the best. No. So I really don't care. This, to me, has, I think, hopefully will be great for Humble Bundle. And like Nathan said, give them opportunities and capital to do things they couldn't before. I could care less, though, about any quote-unquote ethical concerns people have. I really don't care.
No, it's true. So I did double check to make sure I wasn't going crazy here too. And IGN, but I do want to say IGN is not the only one accused of this. They're basically being suspected of altering review scores, changing editorial pieces based on who's supporting them as far as marketing is going. So I will buy ad space on your site if you give a good review to Crackdown 3, whatever the case is going to be. Something like that, where they're saying that that's how it's going. Like, if they're spending a lot of money in advertising, they're going to take it easy on their review.
Where does this source?
Numerous sources.
Bob down Bob Street.
Cool.
No. This, if you just Google IGN paid reviews, this comes up here. But this is also, I want to state, common practice in the video game industry as far as marketing. It's basically they're afraid, and there's been people that have been cut off from getting review games at all if they don't at least give it a soft, handle it with kid gloves. I'm not saying you give an Evolve a 9, but it's like, okay, you don't give Evolve a 5 if you want to keep getting games from us, or whatever the case is. But you got to remember, these publications make most of their money off advertising, just like any print media was back in the day before print was virtually gone. Like nowadays, that's how they made their money. So if that funds dry up, then they're out of business. So
just to clarify then,
yes,
because IGN and multiple personalities on IGN say this doesn't happen, you're saying they're all lying.
I'm saying lots of people say that IGN, all the big ones, they all have this practice. Yes.
Lots of people also say that you need loot boxes to beat Shadow of War. So...
That's right. That's absolutely true. That's why I just asked for the source, because like, oh, I talked to this guy who told me this. Well, sweet. I talk to people all the time who tell me crazy crap. That doesn't make it true.
No, I get it. If you Google it, you can find it all over the place. And the thing is, like, it does make sense, though. Because if you think about it, let's say Nintendo wanted to advertise on PSVG. And,
please.
Right, yeah. Please, that'd be great. Throw some money. And let's say they threw in, I don't know, $100K in advertising to have banners on the site, video, pop-up ads, whatever the case is. And then we get Zelda, or we get Mario. And we give Mario a 5. Do we really think Nintendo's going to come around when it's time to renew that contract and knock on our door to hand us another $100K? That's really going to happen? No. Like, it's not going to happen. Like, why would you do that? It wouldn't make any sense at all. I don't know. It's just me. But ultimately, back to the Humble Bundle story, does this affect anything? I certainly hope not. I just kind of raised the question because it just seems a little weird that I, for the life of me, can't figure out why they wanted to buy him in the first place. I guess that's the biggest thing. Is how does Humble Bundle help them at all do anything? So
tax write-off, who knows?
Yeah, who knows? But hopefully it doesn't change, because I'm a fan of Humble Bundle. I've bought numerous Humble Bundles, so I want to see it continue the way it is. And they're pledging they're not going to touch it. They're going to leave it as it is. But it just raised an eyebrow on my end. So I've talked long enough. Nathan, what do you got?
So this is kind of a breaking, unfolding story as we have now. At this point, I just have one side of the story, and I'll just read through it real quick. So David Ballard, he was, or he's on Twitter at dbal, D-B-A-L, and I'm just going to read through this series of tweets that he posted today, October 14th, as we record here. So he says, in late 2015, I was sexually harassed at Naughty Dog by a lead. My work environment became extremely toxic afterward. In February 2016, I had a mental breakdown at work, and Sony PlayStation HR became involved. When I told them about the harassment, they ended the call and fired me the next day. They cited the company was moving in a different direction, and my job was no longer needed. They tried to silence me by offering $20,000 if I signed a letter agreeing to the termination, as well as not to discuss it with anyone. I declined to sign. I have been unemployed for 17 months since. When interviewers ask why I left Naughty Dog, I say I was burned out by the crunch, ashamed of the root of the problem of being sexually harassed. I'm speaking out because of the strength of a scene of others coming forward in their experiences in the TV and film industry. This is the hardest thing I've ever done. I will not let anyone kill my drive or love for the video game industry, my passions, or life. So that's, he posted that earlier today, actually just about 8 hours ago, as we record now. So the reason I want to bring it up is because obviously we've seen a lot of things out in the industry for video, with Harvey Weinstein and things like that happening out there that are pretty despicable and terrible. But this is a situation you don't normally see. This is a guy who came forward as being sexually harassed. And this is an occurrence that happens to obviously both men and women. So what do you think about this situation and how he says it was handled from the Sony side of things? That's because we're a video game podcast. Let's just talk about the Sony side of things and how they handled it. How he hung up a call with them, and the next day they let him go. So, Kevin, I'll throw it to you.
All right, so I'll just only comment on Sony, right? That's all you want right now?
Just
okay. Not surprised. Only I've worked and I've dealt with big companies in the past, and that to me sounds to be about right. Is it the right thing to do? God, no, but it doesn't surprise me that if being raised the question of harassment, that immediately was, hey, we don't need you anymore. And then here, sign an NDA, and here's your golden parachute to go away. I'm sure they didn't pitch it as, hey, if you don't tell anybody about this, here's this money. It's more like, okay, hey, you signed this NDA, you can't disclose anything about your termination, and here's your severance pay. I'm sure they referred to it like that. But no, I'm not surprised, to be honest. It's sad, but no.
Kyle?
I think obviously this is horrible. That the fact that this happens at all is disappointing, but unfortunately, similar to what Kevin said, unsurprising. In my work life, I do a lot of Title IX investigations, and I think I have never, obviously because I work in higher education, I would be shocked if at every company that has, when you get into those 100, 200, 300 plus employees, I would be shocked if this doesn't happen every year, if not more often than that. Does that make it right? No. Is it the absolute wrong way to handle it? Absolutely. Is it, I think, does it happen far more than any of us probably think about or really put the time to think about? Yeah, I think this happens in every industry, in every area, in every part of life. This kind of crap happens all the time. And it shouldn't. It absolutely should not happen. This is horrible, deplorable, despicable way to handle things. But I think it is the rule far more than it is the exception.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, like, just again with the Sony side of things and how they handled it, obviously I'm not in HR, but I would assume that if I talked to my work HR and said, hey, this is a situation that happened, is there a problem with the way this was handled? I'm pretty sure that they would say that's a problem. So for a big company, one of the big video game companies like Sony, to have this happen to them, it's weird, right? It's one of those things where I don't understand why they would go about it this way, why they wouldn't show the concern or he had a mental breakdown, right? You would think that as HR for a company, you would reach out. You would say, "Hey, let's find a way this happened. Let's figure out how we can help you move on with your life." Not say, "We don't need you anymore." That's just the biggest of. I'm not going to say the word I want to say. The biggest of poor moves that they could make.
Nathan, I hate to break it to you. I think you have rose-colored glasses on, man. I agree. That's what should happen. I don't think that's what happens at a majority of the places.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying this is what should happen. And I think this is a time to shed light on this discussion. It's not just because it's happening to a guy or, it happens to women all the time. I'm sure it probably happens far more to women than to men. But we're talking about video games, right? We're talking about a company that's loved and adored by fans. And for that company to treat a person like that, it's nothing that inspires fandom to me. It's really sad. So I wish that they would have handled it differently and said, "Hey, obviously there's something going on here. We need to help figure things out." And I wish that any company that ever encounters this situation would follow it the way that they, I think, should, with helping a person instead of firing him. So that's the only reason I bring it up, is that obviously there's a larger discussion that could be had here. But I just think that, I'm sure this has happened at Microsoft. I'm sure it's happened at Nintendo, anywhere. But I'm hoping that by this man coming forward and saying that this happened, it sheds light on this. And I wouldn't be surprised if, in light of what's happening with the film industry, with Harvey Weinstein, if more people don't come out of the woodwork and say this happened to me too. This has to ignite change. These companies can't treat employees like garbage. That's how I feel like he felt he was treated. He had that breakdown. He called HR, his people that were supposed to support him and represent him, and they didn't. So that's just the hard point I think about. I think you have more to say, Kyle.
I was just going to say, I think you can find dozens, if not probably hundreds of stories of women in the video game industry who have said this exact same thing in the last 4 years, and none of us were talking about it on podcasts.
And that should change. That should change. That should absolutely change. If we see this happening as the vocal minority, because honestly, I'm sure we are a minority, we have a platform, right? If we don't shed light on it, who else would shed light on it? It has to start at the bottom sometimes to go to the top. So I'm just saying, as part of me seeing a trend that I don't like that's happening across all entertainment mediums right now, this has to be changed. This has to stop. These environments have to be non-toxic as much as they can be. So.
Well, I think the good thing about this is that, and this is the thing again, in my role and in my work, people get really scared when these things start to happen because, like you said, likely this will ignite additional people to say something, and hopefully it does, and hopefully they feel supported and that they have the networks in place to help them when that happens. And people sometimes get very scared with that because suddenly more reports start coming out and they're like, "Oh my gosh, things are getting worse." And it's like, no, things aren't getting worse. You're just now understanding what's actually happening.
Yeah.
Like, you can't fix something if you don't know what's occurring.
Exactly. And that's why I wanted to at least talk about it, is to get that conversation started. I mean, I think that this is just, we've looked at it for too long with rose-colored glasses, right? We just think of like, oh, Sony, oh, movies, oh, whatever. Everything's happy and hunky-dory. There's people behind what we love that is not good. There's an underbelly there that's terrible, that I think that now is the time to shed light on it, to bring people's attention to it, and we got to change it. That is something that I think needs changed, and that's the reason why I bring it up, at least in this discussion. Had it been a woman or a man, doesn't matter to me. I think that it's terrible, it's deplorable, and it's something that I hate. So that's my 2 cents.
I'm there with you. The only other comment I'll make, because we're kind of running out of time here for this evening, is that I'm glad this inspired him to speak up, because I made some comments yesterday myself that when it was women boycott Twitter Day yesterday in response to them blocking Rose McGowan for speaking out against Harvey Weinstein. I felt that was the wrong approach, because being silent was what contributed to this in the first place, that people didn't speak out when something happened. So I'm glad that this caused him to go ahead and speak out against it. And that's what people really need to be doing, as opposed to staying silent to protest something. No, cause some ruckus here. Talk about it. Let's find out. Let's see how deep the rabbit hole goes, per se. I mean, we're finding all these people that supposedly knew about what was going on, you know, in the movie industry. So, you know, how many people know about what's going on in the gaming industry? This could be the start of that conversation. We may find out a whole bunch of mess comes through, you know, for the next week or so. I just wish he didn't do it on a Saturday, because, you know, with our news cycle, it may not get as much push as it probably should have if he did it on like a, you know, a Tuesday or a Wednesday. But we'll see what comes down, and if it continues on, and if more people pick up that banner and run with it. But I'm with you, Nathan. More people need to be talking about it. We need to get in front of it and fix it, instead of just tolerating it and staying quiet about it. Kyle, do you have any final thoughts on that before we wrap up?
Nope. I'm just glad that hopefully we are going to start seeing some change in regards to all of this stuff.
Agreed. All right, everybody. Well, that wraps up the show for this evening. But before we leave, we want to let you know where you can link up with us and find out more about what we're up to. Nathan, anything you want to plug, sir?
I was recently on Fortress of Nerditude, so that was kind of fun. Hopping over there with the guys and enjoyed my conversation. And they subsequently, they came on entertaining. That's entertaining. Felt like I was on Fortress of Nerditude. Maybe one day. I'm not that cool yet, but they came on That's Entertaining, and we talked about ET a little bit ago, so that was fun. Anyway, you can find me on Twitter at that's
voiced by Nathan.
You can find me on Twitter.
You can just find me on Twitter. Just find me on Twitter.
Just do it. Just find me. I'm there.
Just look at that little green box under Nathan's name when he talks. That's where you find him.
If you find me on Twitter after this episode and you've not have followed me before, say, hey, I found you. I'll send you a code for a game of some sort. I don't know.
Kyle, anything you want to plug, and hopefully a more clear method?
Yeah, so you could follow me on Twitter at Cycocross, CYCOCROSS. That is also my username on the PSN. Feel free to just friend me there. Josh and I recently started a new initiative here at PSVG called Board with Video Games. It's BOARD. So it's a podcast that covers both board games and video games, mostly board games, with a little dash of video games thrown in. So that is a weekly show that just started last week. We had some audio issues. We think we have those figured out for this coming week, though. So, you know, please, if you listened during week one and we're like, oof, the middle part's pretty rough, I promise week two will be better. So check us out. We also have a Twitter and Instagram for that at BoardWithVG, and also use hashtag BoardWithVG to follow on and all the awesome discussions that we're having.
I did have one more thing, by the way, and I swear I'm not going insane yet, but that's I am doing that.
That's entertaining. You can find it on Twitter.
But Extra Life is coming up soon.
Yes.
So I'll be doing my stream, my 24-hour marathon for the Children's Hospital here in Illinois, and that's going to be in about a month. If you can't see my shirt, I don't know if you can see my shirt. Anyway, that's from one of the years before. But you can find out more about the my particular drive is extra-life.org/participant/NT. So I'd appreciate it if you go out there, take a look, see what I'm trying to do, maybe toss a couple dollars my way. It doesn't come to me, by the way. It goes to the hospital directly. It's just a method for you to donate and help support kids in need. So please hop on, check out extra-life.org/participant/NT. And
Nathan and I are going to try and get together and figure out something on the calendar. We can sit down and talk about Extra Life again like we did last year and get some other people to join us. So maybe in a week or two, Nathan, we'll figure that out and do that on PSVG, the main show.
Follow me on Twitter and you can find
out. Follow me on That's Extra Life / all right, so everybody visit the website, placeofvideogames.com. Like we said numerous times, major expansions coming our way, and we're not done yet. So there's more shows coming. If you haven't heard them all, please go back and listen to them. We're trying to keep it as easy as possible. It's just coming through the same podcast feed as PSVG does, so you do not need to do anything extra to get these great shows. But please let us know your feedback if you like them, particularly what you like, what you don't like, so we can tweak it and kind of keep this machine growing and feed the beast, if you will. So,
And after they're all released, we're gonna have a big battle royale of the podcasts, and then we'll see what happens. You know, so we're gonna have one person go into PUBG and just like battle it all out till they get down to the last person, and then see which one comes to the top. So, yeah.
And if you want to see that battle, you can follow it on Twitter and add that. Anyway, thank you everybody for tuning in, tolerating us, but more importantly than anything else, remember to never stop gaming.